Hello and welcome to another episode of Optics Trade Debates. I'm Andrash.
My name is Taylor. Hello.
And in this episode we're going to be talking about another one of the categories that you can find when looking on our webpage. We'll be diving into the category of mounts, and to be more specific we're going to be talking about the category of Weaver and Picatinny rings. Theodore, why do we have on our webpage a category specifically made for Weaver and Picatinny rings?
Well, a straight answer really because of the popularity of this mounting solution. So now I would say half of all the mounts in the world, or at least in Europe, in the US it's even more than half, it's based on the Picatinny or Weaver standard rail on the rifle, and then Weaver or Picatinny rings which fit on this rail and which mount the scope. And since we have like 800 different products in this category, it's also that not only that they are popular by customers, they're also popular by producers. So everybody is producing either Weaver or Picatinny rings, and this is the reason why we decided to make a separate category for this type of products.
But these are obviously two different standards. We have the Weaver standard and the Picatinny standard. What are some of the basic differences between these two standards?
Well, first of all, I would like to invite you, if you can check our YouTube channel and search for the video about the differences between Picatinny and Weaver rail. We have there all the differences explained. The main difference is that Picatinny rail has slots every 5 millimeters, and the slots are 5.23 millimeters wide. So when you see a rail which have continuous slots all over its length, this is a Picatinny rail. When you see a rail which only has a couple of slots, like this one only has 3 slots, and the same profile as Picatinny, then you know this is a Weaver rail. The difference is also that Weaver rail has slots which are 3.8 millimeters wide. And here we come to the differences between Picatinny and Weaver rings. The main difference is in recoil stopper. So the notch which goes into the slot, or how to say this part which goes into the slot. With Picatinny rings, this part is 5 millimeters wide, and that means it fits perfectly into the 5.23 millimeter slot on the rail, like this. So, and it doesn't move backwards or towards the front, because it sits inside really nicely. But because this recoil stopper is 5 millimeters, around 5 millimeters wide, it won't fit into 3.8 millimeters wide slot on the Weaver rail. As you can see, it doesn't fit, it doesn't go in. So basically the Picatinny rings with this 5 millimeter recoil stopper do not fit on the Weaver rail, while they fit on the Picatinny rail.
So we could say that the Picatinny standard is a step forward from the Weaver standard, and on the Picatinny you can mount the Weaver rings as well as Picatinny rings.
This is the second topic. The Weaver rings, they have a recoil stopper which is 3.8 millimeters wide, or let's say 3.7, so that it fits in. So these rings, they fit on Weaver, like here. So they fit nicely into the slot. And normally, because they are 3.8, around 3.8 millimeters wide, they also fit on Picatinny. However, on Picatinny, they will have a little bit of space.
Of course, because they're not as wide. Yeah.
They're not as wide. So when you put them on Picatinny rail, you always have to press them so that they sit on the side of the slot, on the wall of the slot, towards the target. Because when you shoot, the recoil goes backward, the scope wants to go towards the target. So you have to push them towards the target. And this is the main difference, so that the recoil stopper in Weaver rings is 3.8 millimeters wide, while in Picatinny rings is around 5 millimeters wide. The difference is also that with the Weaver rings, it's usually really small, only on part of the whole length, while with Picatinny rings it's bigger and it goes through the entire length of the entire width of the Picatinny rail.
Can mounting a Weaver ring which has a narrower, let's say, recoil stopper on a Picatinny rail be a problem? You said you have to push it forward.
Basically not.
Basically not.
No.
It cannot, I don't know.
It is true that in general Picatinny rings are more expensive and more advanced. They are more nicely made, more robust, bigger and so on. Less elegant also, if we are talking about this. And they're more reliable. However, in general, all these mounting solutions are really reliable. Some beaver rings even feature only a screw through it, which is rounded on the bottom. So basically, you can even, and there are even some beaver rings which have no stopper at all. So you can even mount them somewhere on beaver rail where there is no recoil lug.
So does this screw act as the recoil stopper here in this case, or
by
no?
these two rings, yes. In these rings, yes. In these rings, it acts, I would say,
as a partial recoil stopper.
as a partial. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a full function of it, but it works also partly as a recoil stopper. But you can also buy beaver rings which have no recoil stopper, and you can mount them somewhere where there is no slot on the rail.
So this is useful if you have a, I don't know, if you have a ring and then you can remove the recoil stopper and you can then mount it on the rail, which would originally not provide a solution of mounting.
Yeah, you can mount them somewhere where there is no slot.
Yeah.
It is true also there are some rings where you can, with the help of two small screws, you can even remove the recoil stopper, but they're all beaver types. However, you also have to consider that when you mount a ring on a rail on that part where there are no slots and no recoil stoppers, then if the rifle will be a heavy kicking one,
Yeah, it can.
it will move. Yeah,
Move.
it will start to move towards the target, and this is why the recoil stoppers are important. If you have a center fire rifle with a bigger caliber which has a substantial recoil, then you need a recoil stopper, and the rings have to sit in it, either beaver or Picatinny.
And here,
rings.
in this case, Picatinny rail is also useful because it can be used throughout its entire length, right?
Yeah.
Unlike the beaver rail, which only has some slots
True.
on the surface.
I think that beaver rails are dying out. I also think that in the future we will only have Picatinny rings and no beaver rings anymore. Somewhere in the distant future, where only Picatinny rails.
So
will be
probably
used.
now beaver rings are still made because there are still plenty of beaver rails.
They're far more
the
versatile than Picatinny. You buy Picatinny rings and you have a beaver rail on your rifle and it won't fit. Yeah, this is the main difference, because all Picatinny rings have this wide recoil stopper, which will not fit on the beaver.
Thank you very much for all the answers. I think we
You're welcome.
basically covered the topic, but if we forgot something, as usual, you can leave a comment in the comment section below or send us an email.
I would also
Yeah.
say one more time, please go and check our video about the differences between Picatinny rail and beaver rail.
Yeah, because this video is, I would say, related to
Yeah.
the video
It's
that
really
we're
useful.
making right now. Yeah. Hit like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out our other videos, of course, and see you in the next debates. Bye bye.
Bye.